Jody, would you mind just starting off by introducing yourself, sharing more about your role, your district?
Sure. So Jody O'Brien, I'm Assistant Superintendent for Student Services and Equity from Marlborough Public Schools. This is just finished my 6th year in the district. Our district is like medium size. We have a little over 5,000 students enrolled, very, very high population of families and students that English is their second language. A little over maybe 60% of our families, English is a second language to the home. So we have a lot of EL students as well as special education students that might be dual identified. So I oversee special education, English language learners, nursing, counseling, McKinney-Vento homeless and foster. So a lot of the high risk groups that are in our district. So I need to be able to monitor the data and be able to look at any patterns and trends and any barriers that they may have as far as being able to have equitable access to education.
Absolutely. Well, we're excited to have this conversation with
Yeah.
you and to learn with you here. Jody, when did Otus come into the picture for Marlborough I know I heard you say analyze student data, but what has your journey been like?
It was around my first year. So about 6 years ago, we were talking about having a data dashboard. So it's been 5 years, about 5 years or so that we've had Otus. The first couple of years, it's been primarily used it's been embraced at the elementary level. Both the teachers have been able to use that within their professional learning communities to be able to look at data for their grade levels, to be able to pinpoint students that might need tier 2 or 3 interventions. It's been a little bit more difficult at the secondary level for the 2 schools to be able to use it. There's a lot of students, there's a lot going on. So today, like for our training that we're doing with Otus today, my goal is to be able to have administrators really be able to build those reports, that user-friendly reports that you have, and build those ahead of time to be able to use for the school year. And I think that will be more helpful for them to be able to have the time to be able to sit together as a group to be able to do those. But I found that the data dashboard's great because it's taking the information from Aspen, which is our student information system, along with other data. So our student benchmark data, we use NWEA, we look at attendance and working on discipline as well, but there's MCAS data. You can put in SAT scores and stuff, so you can get all these different data sources and have it in one spot. But I really, really love the graphics. So you get the bar graphs in the pie charts, and you're able to like really be able to visually see the different subgroups such as special ed and EL.
What types of questions do you find that you have or other administrators have as they're looking at those reports and kind of seeing all this data in one place? Is it sparking deeper conversation, wonderings? What does that kind of look like at the building or district level?
So I have to be honest that during COVID years, it was definitely on the side burner. And so we're really just starting to get back into using it as a resource and to be able to have those conversations in the last year or so. Our focus right now at the district level is chronic absenteeism. And I know across the state of Massachusetts that, and I think nationally, that chronic absenteeism for students has skyrocketed since COVID. So that is our emphasis, one of the emphases for us, because if we can't get the students, if the students aren't here, then they can't learn. So building those reports to be able to identify students early on as far as their absenteeism, but then the components that you have, like the note section. So when a building-based team looks at a group of students that are heading towards being absent like early on September, October, then when they come up with a plan, they could use the notes section in Otus to be able to say like what steps are they doing. And then from an equity standpoint, I'm able to drill down and talk with administrators about any patterns, like if there's higher percentages of special ed students or higher percentages of low income EL, like that's easy to be able to look at within the Otus dashboard.
Okay. How were you all doing this before you were using Otus? How were you able to look at these trends?
I don't think we were. So,
Okay.
so I mean, from our student information system, you can get a report on how many students have 10 or more absences,
Sure.
and you get a list of names, but it comes out in a report. You can get it into an Excel spreadsheet, but it's up to this point, I don't think anybody has really had the time to be able to look at it. But again, I know at the elementary level, the teachers are really using it for that benchmark data, and as well as they've developed some of their own common assessments that I think my colleague Ron Sanborn, who's the director of elementary curriculum for pre-K to 5, I know he's really an expert in that area as far as and how Otus is used in that way.
It sounds like there's just different focuses based on the grade level of the students, which is a nice.
So even for a school district, I think there's different features of Otus that meet the needs of the school and the district. So district level administrators, I think, are using features of Otus, like those historical reports, to be able to look at trends at a district level, and not really so much at like what the classroom teacher component is doing, but at the school level with the principal and the classroom teacher, like they're using other features of Otus that I'm not as familiar with, and vice versa.
Sure. No, that makes perfect sense. There's kind of a use case for each group pending on their goals. As you're talking with other administrators here today at the training, are you kind of seeing their wheels turning as far as what they can do with the data?
Yes.
There's some buy-in?
I think there's a lot of excitement, and like, oh my God, I can do this. So, and I think having that time, you said, like, to be able to set aside to actually work in Otus, because you get caught up during the workday. It's like you come in and you set aside time to be able to do something, but within school, like there's always something that comes up. You're like, oh, by the end of the day, you didn't get to it. So having that time, I think, ahead of time to be able to build those reports and really become familiar and set that up, because once you have the built reports, you can just run them throughout the year.
Are you finding, I know you mentioned from an equity standpoint that you're really interested in like drilling down into the groups. Are you seeing the conversation shift at all as you have this information more accessible to kind of shifting more into like what you're going to do for students, or what's next? Is that the goal?
So our state level data had showed that our subgroups, our special ed, EL, and other at-risk groups, minority groups, have higher percentages of chronic absenteeism than our white English-speaking students. So we just had an administrative leadership meeting yesterday where we spent 2 hours talking about chronic absenteeism and looking at research on best practices, relationship development, relationships with the parents, with the student is a key component to reducing chronic absenteeism, along with a lot of non-punitive measures. So we're starting to talk about that. And then for the equity piece of it is having ongoing conversations to drill down into what the barriers are. The barrier might be that the student has to work during the day to be able to support their family. So that's where the game plan might be to be able to have a wraparound service coordinator be able to work with the family on being able to get the resources that they need, as an example.
Sounds like you are definitely putting in place a lot of supports for students to ensure that they're really getting what they need. So that's wonderful to hear. You guys are definitely doing good things over here in Marlborough for students. Anything else that you all are focused on this year? You've got quite a lot on your plate. What else is going on in the school district this year?
I know, so at the elementary level, just kind of, again, coming out of COVID, you see, across the board, a dip in student performances. So I know one of the focuses also at the classroom level and at the school building level is student performance and targeting those students. So looking at the progress monitoring data and then coming up with those plans to be able to put interventions into place to close those gaps.
And they'll all be doing that within Otus as well, correct?
Yes. Yep.
That's great. So they'll really be going from start to finish with the assessing, analyzing, and then also kind of creating those custom plans to support those needs. Yep. Do you foresee that kind of rolling out into the secondary levels, or is that primarily?
Yep. So that's our goal. So that's my primary goal today with the Otus training, the full day training that we're doing today, is it's all administrators pretty much that are here, and we have all of the secondary administrators. So, seeing them work together as a group, and they were just talking about like five to 8 different reports that they're thinking of that they would like to create, and then having you guys here to be able to sit down and be able to walk through and build those reports and be hands-on assistants. And they do like the little chat feature that you have on there too. So I really appreciate the support and help that you guys have provided ongoing, like throughout the year. Like anytime we have a question, you guys are right there to be able to answer it. And working with Hillary and Jess on like one of the data sources that isn't part of Otus or it's new to Otus is discipline data. So that's something we're working on to be able to bring in and be able to have like how many students have been suspended for 5 days or more. And that's a civil rights piece that we're required to look at on a regular basis to make sure that there isn't any disparity with consequences with discipline.
Well, it sounds like you definitely are getting the right support to accomplish your goals. So we appreciate the shout out there.
We appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
If you were to meet with another administrator from the region or across the country who is maybe considering Otus, do you have any advice for them, or somebody just getting started, looking to do what you're doing?
Yes. So I've been promoting it actually all summer. So
well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Between some of the different administrative groups that I belong to, there's special ed directors group, and then superintendents, assistant superintendents. So when we're having those conversations and asking other districts, well, what are you using or how are you using? How are you able to use your data? And for districts that don't have a system in place, and say, oh, well, you should check this out.
Great. Well, thank you. That's very, very, very nice of you. Now, were you part of the initial Otus launch, like all the way back in the beginning, or?
For me, it was the first one that I had gone to was right before COVID, so in 2019. So I think we were like maybe 2 years into it.
Okay.
Before that, the emphasis was, I believe, like our supervisor of math, and supervisor humanities that's looking at the ELA, the reading, and then the elementary principles. I think that was like the first push was like that classroom level and how to use it. And then as that got going, I think then it was like, okay, oh, Otus has this feature too, like we can use it in this way, which was, more efficient or more useful for district level administrators.
Sounds like it was like a slow and methodical approach to kind of.
I think implementation of any product or any resource or tool, it's kind of like that. It's like you have that initial launch and that phase where you get like the people who are really excited about it, and then it's like, oh, like here's all this other stuff that you can do with it.
Yeah, kind of get that buy-in to get people excited. Well, we're definitely excited to follow along this year as you all are supporting students, and I know just from hearing you in there today, you've definitely got a lot of data at your disposal to use to help map out the best path. So
thank you.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you sitting down with us, sharing more, and hosting us as well. So thank you.